Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the channel. Now, if you're tuning in late, it is Sunday, so I know some people wake up a little bit later. Go ahead and go into the frame of your video here and hit the 125 or 150% speed. That'll get you caught up to the rest of the live show. And kind of as a general rule, I will oftentimes watch content at 150% speed just because I get through it faster. So that's just a little hack on YouTube. You don't have to, if you see like a time frame on a particular video that seems too long, you could just watch it a little bit faster. You know, typically people talk slower than we can perceive and understand things. But welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to get into what I've coined the term as being the Hodo matrix, Hodo. Now, why are we calling it the Hodo matrix? Well, if you're new to the channel, anytime we find a new paradigm or a new construct, a secret construct, we'll call it a matrix because it is essentially a set of rules, a set of values, a set of truths that all link to one another. So in today's show, it will be the Hodo matrix. What is the Hodo matrix? Well, the Hodo matrix is a series of words with the letters HODO that all seem to connect together to a magic tower. Now, let's start with the Game of Thrones aspect to the Hodo matrix. Everybody has seen the scene, or most people have. A couple of you haven't. If you watched the Game of Thrones series, and there was a character named Hodo, or Hodor, Hodor, and they had figured out that Hodor got his name because he was holding the door. And they were in some kind of weird, like, time loop. And they were all underground in these tree roots in the Game of Thrones series. And they go to escape. And Hodor, which was essentially a gentle giant, if you will, he was the one who held the door shut so the rest of the characters could escape as he was holding the door, which is how he got his name. I'm wondering how much of this we can actually play. Here's the scene here. Hodor holding the door, escaping. Winter is coming. All these zombies chasing them through the actual tree root system. And Hodor, this is him here, being consumed by the zombies as his friends escape. Now, why are we considering all this? Well, because this archetype actually fits into the rest of what we're going to talk about today. A place in Turkey. A place that also has underground root systems. It also has an aspect where somebody is holding the door, just like Hodor. In these towers that are called Hoodoo towers. This is them here. So the plot thickens, doesn't it? These are the Hoodoo towers. Now, what is this place in Turkey that we're talking about? And how does it all connect to this? Well, this place in Turkey, virtually the same thing happened in ancient times, where somebody had to hold the door. This is Gorham, Turkey. And again, these are called Hoodoo towers, Hoodoo. Let's watch this video about this particular place in Turkey and pay close attention because this is insane.
Underground towns, Gorham National Park and the rock sites of Cappadocia. The landscape of Cappadocia in central Turkey has been...
Now, the first thing you're going to notice is that these places, these hoodoos, look just like iPet Goat 2. Here's the scene from iPet Goat 2. There's a woman in this tower. I'm going to show you what that means. There are also these underground caverns in iPet Go 2 under the armpit of this figure that's laying down, which matches what you're going to see next. These underground caverns. It's all here, you guys. Let's keep watching.
The landscape of Cappadocia in central Turkey has been sculpted by centuries of erosion. Christians began to build churches here as early as the 1st century. One of them is the 12th century Karanlik church, meaning the dark church, because hardly any light penetrates inside the building.
The dark church. And there are angels on the wall. Are these fallen angels? Well, keep listening. This is insane.
It has original fresco paintings of the time. An underground town of amazing scale was discovered in a Cappadocia village in 1965. Locals gradually dug deeper underground as they sought refuge from invaders, eventually forming a huge 8-story underground town. Wine was made here in a corner on the 1st floor. The grapes were crushed by foot. The grape juice flowed into the hole below.
Grape juice obviously represents blood sacrifice.
The juice would then be stored in a large pot to be mellowed. Underground level 2 was used for living and storage. There's a dining room, a living room and a bedroom. People continued to dig to accommodate the growing number of people.
The growing number of people. Now I'm going to play the scene from iPet Goat so you can see that essentially the same thing was happening. They were counting with these hashtags. The people all on the walls, as you can see here, all these hashtags on the wall, the counting. Let's keep watching here, and then we'll put all this together. I'm just presenting to you what I found, or I didn't find this. One of you found the Gorum National Park, and thanks to the subscriber that sent that to me.
The holes in the corridor were used primarily as a storage entrance, but also served as a pitfall in times of battle. A door made of rock dominates the corridor, connecting underground levels 3 and 5. It weighs 1 ton and once rolled into place, seals off the complex from intruders.
Hold the door.
Once closed, the rock will not budge from the outside. One long well runs vertically through the underground town. The 65-meter construction not only provides water for each floor, but also functions as a ventilation device. A steep staircase leads to underground level 7. At the bottom was a church carved out in the shape of a cross. The Christians of Cappadocia had created a space for their faith at the deepest level of the underground town.
Insane. So I looked these structures up because I wanted to know. I was like, what are these structures? And so I found what they were. They're called fairy chimneys and hoodoo towers. And there are many myths and legends associated with all this. Fairy towers and hoodoo. Now, these are natural formations. A hoodoo, also called a tent rock, fairy chimney, or earth pyramid. And so here's the hold the door, right? Hoodoo. And they mentioned Cappadocia, that these also are the ones that we just covered in Turkey. Now, what is this place? Well, let's play this iPet Goat 2 scene and see if we can make sense of this. The woman in the tower. I'm going to identify this woman in the tower. Now, understand that iPet Goat 2 has many manifestations, right? It has many interpretations. But essentially, what we see here is a lighthouse kind of effect, and obviously a male figure and a male member becoming the actual lighthouse and the fairy chimney. But under the arm of this image is the underground entrance, just like in Gorham. Then there's some kind of judgment coming from heaven, maybe the hand of God, shining the light on what's really going on in the church. You also have a cross at the top, suggesting this is a church. So good job. You guys are on fire. We had another subscriber who exposed another part of iPet Goat 2. The Holodomor, again, Hodor, H-O-D-O, H-O-O-D-O-O, Holodomor, genocide. One of you found that in iPet Goat 2. So you guys are on fire this last week. And these were two different subscribers. So the Holy Spirit is pouring out so that we can understand all this. So this has to be what this is, right? This is a fairy chimney. It's got the cross on top, the church. This is Gorham, Cappadocia, Turkey. Now, this zooms in. And here was where we get more confirmation. We see this old woman in the tower and this heart blinking, and even the cutout here with the bars looks a lot like what we just saw in this particular image here of the fairy towers. So everything's fitting together perfectly. We continue on here. Now, we've been looking at this scene for an entire decade and couldn't figure it out. We did find something that was interesting, and that was Bezos' rocket looked a lot like this tower, this phallic image. And then Wally Funk, we found, had a booster shoe. So we started calling Bezos, we started calling him Booster Bezos. And Wally Funk's booster shoe looked just like this woman's booster shoe in iPet Go 2. They both have a booster shoe. But understand that whatever that, ritual was where Jeff Bezos shot that rocket up and the whole Wally Funk thing, that had to have been an archetype of something deeper and darker. Maybe he was channeling these fairy chimneys, and they know that something was going on. And so they were repeating it in ritual to show all of us. Anyway, you see all these hash marks, all the people that were down in the fairy chimneys mentioned in that documentary we just looked at. Now, there's some other aspect to this woman, because there are witches that inhabit these fairy chimneys, according to lore. We're going to look at that now. But before we do, what are the witches called? They're called Peris, P-E-R-I, which sounds like perimenopause. And of course, you see the disappearance of menses, which would be perimenopause in this older woman. That has to be what it's talking about. And they're all the hash marks on the walls. So this is multi-layered ritual. Now let's take a look at these Peris. It's actually P-A-R-I, which basically is Paris. Go figure. And these they're jinn-like creatures that inhabited these hoodoos. Now, what makes this crazy, let's see here. Let's follow the rabbit hole here so you can see this and how I found all this after we were made aware that these were these hoodoo towers. Because they mentioned this in here, that these Peris actually inhabit this place. Let's see if it's listed here. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? A Peri. Now, they spell it both ways, P-A-R-I and P-E-R-I, is a supernatural entity originating from Persian tales. Now, here's where the plot thickens, because now this all links into Iran. The Peris are often described as winged creatures, immense beauty, who are structured in societies similar to that of humans. Unlike jinn, the Peris usually feature in tales involving supernatural elements. They're a class of evil spirits in the Islamic period. Peri already developed into morally complex beings with generally positive connotation of immense beauty. So, this is crazy, you guys. Now, you're probably wondering, Casey, these are immensely beautiful creatures. Well, the Peris also had an enemy, and they were demonic figures. We're going to look at that next. Let's find I want to show you guys the connection to the hoodoos. I can't remember exactly how I got there, but the Peris inhabit these hoodoos. They literally inhabit the hoodoos. Now, let's keep going here, because the Div, they're called D-I-V or D-E-V, were monstrous creatures of Middle Eastern lore, and they battled the Peris. They were against the Peris. And so I dug into these and I was like, whoa. So we've got Peris and divas. I wonder if this is where the diva word came from. Basically, a grotesque, demonic figure who are ugly and lived in these towers as well. Wow. Now, we're not going to belabor this point. I'll put links to all this for you guys. But I wanted to show you what was found with the underground entrance and all of these connections and these chimneys, towers, these natural formations, and churches being built inside of them. And all this stuff seems to line up in the Holodomor, hold the door, hoodoo matrix. Now, you'll remember that the Holodomor site also has a strange tower with an underground entrance. Let's take a look. This is the Holodomor Memorial in Kiev, Ukraine. This is what one of you found the other day. And as you can see, it has this candle with this top on it that kind of looks like these fairy chimneys. They look like candles, don't they? And you have to wonder if all of this is connected. There's also an underground entrance as well. And under here, they count the victims of the famine. Hashtags. Now, there aren't literal hashtags, but this is a memorial. Now, there's more to this, and we'll get into that in a minute. But understand that hoodoo is also associated with voodoo. This is hoodoo. Now, we see a lot of voodoo in iPet Go 2, don't we? Hoodoo is a set of spiritual observances, traditions, and beliefs, including magical and other ritual practices developed by enslaved African Americans in the southern U.S. So, hoodoo. Now, I haven't even gone down this rabbit hole to see if there are any towers, and underground entrances associated with hoodoo, but I'll put a link to this as well. Now, what else I found is there are other connections between the hoodoo towers and iPet Go 2. Why? Well, the Hagia Sophia Mosque is also connected to this, to these churches of Gorham, one of which we just looked at. Here's the Wikipedia page connecting the Hagia Sophia, the mosque that we found in iPet Go 2. Now, that was a previous decode, so you might be confused about that. But for those of you that remember this, you'll know. It says here the stylistic traits, flatness, and geometric abstraction can also be compared to frescoes in other parts of the empire, like the Hagia Sophia. It says here a piece of a cross is still buried in the foundations of the Hagia Sophia. This was a legend about a cross. So, crazy, right? What are the odds that those two would be connected? More proof that whoever found this is over the target, that this tower is connected in other parts of iPet Go 2. Now, what else is going on? Well, let's get back to Holodomor, which is this famine and this genocide that happened in Ukraine, Ukraine, because this is crazy. And this fits into the Hodo matrix as well. The Holodomor Tower in Ukraine. This was a memorial to the 1933 famine that killed millions of Ukrainians. You got the two towers here. One, this is actually a memorial. It's called, this obelisk here is called the Monument to the Unknown Soldier. And it is 88 feet tall. And it opened on November 6th, 1957. Again, this is called the Candle of Memory. And then this underground part as well, which matches up with Gorham. Church on top and an underground part here. Wow. Pretty crazy stuff, right, you guys? So that's the Hodor matrix. We have sealed doors, dark churches, underground caverns, human sacrifice, witches that live in towers, waving wands, casting a spell, keeping humanity in darkness until Judgment Day. So I hope all of that made sense for you guys. I'll put a link to all this stuff in the pinned comment. Now, tomorrow we're going to have a little fun. Tomorrow is the bomb Iran show, because everything's about bombing Iran. There's more bombing on deck. If Iran doesn't say exactly what Trump thinks they should say, he's threatening more and more bombing. The whole thing is ridiculous and stupid. So we're going to expose exactly how ridiculous and stupid it is tomorrow, and we're going to have a little fun doing it. And then we're going to cover Trump's big, beautiful bill, giving an update on the aspect of the bill that has to do with artificial intelligence. And then another original discovery. What am I talking about? Well, Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act, the acronym literally means king. You can't make this up. OBA means king or ruler. Now, did the people in the No Kings movement know this? No, they didn't. This is gaslighting, is what it is. No one said, oh, hey, the one big beautiful bill, OBA, means king. Nobody said that because it's all gaslighting. They created both sides of the argument. The controllers did. So we'll cover all that tomorrow. And that was something that just popped into my head this morning from the Holy Spirit. And so that will be tomorrow's show. Unbelievable, right? Unbelievable. Now, do you guys have any questions on the Hodor matrix? That wasn't supposed to be confusing, but I don't know, my presentation skills today weren't all that great. So apologies. But understand that the Perrys live in the Hoodoo Tower. Why couldn't I find that before? Let's see here. Let's find this. Let's go back here. Maybe it's in here. Peri? Oh, let's see here. I'm sorry, you guys. Let's see. Let's find this connection. The fairy to oh, maybe it's in this thing here. A guide to Cappadocia's unique local myths and legends. Oh, here we go. The legend of the fairy chimneys. One of the most famous myths of Cappadocia revolves around the fairy chimneys, the tall cone-shaped rock formations that dot the landscape. Here it is. According to legend, these chimneys were once inhabited by fairy-like creatures known as Peri. That's the Peri menopause. The Peri was said to be beautiful with wings and magical powers, and they would use the chimneys as their homes. Again, Peri, the arch rival of the Peri, is the diva that I just showed you, which are the old demonic wicked witches. So I'm glad I went and looked back about that. Diva. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. Originally, the Peris had been considered a class of divata, and the term divana refers to a person who lost reason because they fell in love, as the beloved steals the lover's reason. In this regard, the Peri features similar to the Arabic jinn. The jinn, unlike the Peris, do not have connotations of beauty, however. And then they also mentioned the divas in here as being their arch enemy. Crazy, right? All of that in this scene from iPet Code 2. Just shocking. So all this is apparently going to be exposed at some point with whatever this is coming out of the sky, shining a light on all this. And I can imagine it probably has something to do with human sacrifice and child trafficking. Wow. All right. Guess everybody slept in today. Okay, I'm back in the chat, you guys. Good morning. Blue beam. Aaron says you're getting into the inner workings of the devil's devices. Yeah, a lot of what the devil does is ritual. The Bible commands us to take no part in darkness, but expose it. So that's what we're doing today. Oh, Christy says Katy Perry. Wow. There you go. And she is pretty much like a witch, isn't she? Now, good witch, bad witch, it doesn't matter. That's the duality of it. They want you to believe there's good witches and bad witches, but really they're all witches. Peri actually means like part or a portion of or the beginnings of or something to that effect. Partial. Yeah, iPet Goat 2 is loaded. What a week, you guys. Two massive revelations that solved a huge chunk of iPet Goat 2. And it took literally 13 years for that to happen. Katy Perry rode the D rocket, Blue Genesis. That's right. Which is the Blue Bloods. And Genesis means the beginning. So the beginnings of the blue blood, whatever they're birthing in. with the rocket, which is phallic, which represents the seed of something, right? It's the infective agent. Yeah, I kind of quit watching after iPet Goat 2 because the rest of the iPet Goats, because there were sequels, I think they're up to 6 now, they seem to be knockoffs. They weren't from like the original Heliofant, and that was pretty much at that point, that was it. Periwinkle. Yeah, I'm sure that that might even mean like, because isn't periwinkle like purple? So it might mean like partial purple. There's a reason why they call it periwinkle. Okay. Synth DNA. X's sprayed all day here, says M Saint. So got some chemtrails over there. Yes, there's lots of iPet Goat 2s. There's iPet Goat 3. I think they're up to iPet Goat 6 now. But the quality, you can tell it's not the same thing. I think I decoded iPet Goat 3, but even when I was decoding and I was like, this isn't the real thing. This is like confusion. It's a knockoff. The Snake is a hoodoo rhythm band song. Chuck says fake iPet goats don't count. A ballerina dance move to Peri. Obadiah made a nest among the stars. Thanks, Jamie. How about Donald as the Moonchild? Yes, we've covered parts of that. Miguel Gorilla. He was born on a lunar eclipse. Donald Trump, and we exposed the whole Moonies connection. Because remember, the Moonies. Trump went to speak for the Moonies on 9/11. And really, what that was, it was a ritual. It had to have been a ritual. Now, why do I say that? Well, Paula, I think she also spoke at that particular event. I believe she's a Moonie. And Trump basically was endorsing the Moonies. Now, who are the Moonies? Well, the Moonies took over the Wyndham New Yorker Hotel where Nikola Tesla died on the 33rd floor. They took that building over as their headquarters. Interestingly enough, and it was at that location that Trump's own uncle, John Trump, confiscated Tesla's papers. We all know the story. The connection here is the building, you guys. The building, Nikola Tesla, and 9/11 and the Moonies. So we exposed that whole thing. That was a rabbit hole for sure. And these were one of the reasons why I thought Trump might have known what exactly happened on 9/11, because he keeps signaling that he knew. Whatever technology was used to turn steel into dust, maybe it came from Nikola Tesla's death ray, which was known to turn steel into dust. Literally, Tesla said he could take a plane out of the sky by firing a beam at it. Firing a beam at it and taking the metal engines out of the plane. Now, planes are made out of aluminum, but their engines are metal, right? So, what does that tell you? Well, the fact that their engines are made out of metal tells you that only the engine was affected by the death ray and the aluminum was not. Now, wrap your brain around this for a second, because the facade of the Twin Towers were made out of aluminum, just like an airplane. This is why people couldn't understand, or this is why the facade of the Twin Towers actually survived. That was the only part that didn't turn into dust, and we all saw the images of the tridents those were coated in aluminum, so they survived. It was the only thing left. Everything else was turned to dust. The core steel was turned to dust, just like the death ray. So this goes deep, you guys. Trump's first comments after the towers fell was, "Oh, I guess my buildings are the tallest in Manhattan now." Like, who says that after 3,000 people died? Oh, but Casey, they shot Trump. No, they didn't. This is a screenshot from the electric state. And this is a screenshot, literally, not just from the electric state, but the trailer from the electric state, which came out before Trump was supposedly shot. We covered this. And yet, what do you see? You see, before the event ever happened, a giant cat shot through the right ear. That's literally a screenshot from the actual trailer. What else do you see? You see the flag of Iwo Jima. This is from the trailer, which is exactly the scene when Trump stood up. Essentially, the cat is Trump. Flag of Iwo Jima in the electric state trailer before the event ever happened in real life. I hope you're awake. Very few people have the discipline to understand these truths. They're in denial. They think there must be a logical explanation, but really what this is that they're gaslighting us. They are gaslighting us. And they actually enjoy watching people like me try to show people the foreshadowing of foreknowledge and people just waving it off as nothing to see here. That's part of how they get their power. They're like, haha, we just showed the exact scenario in the electric state. And still everyone's laughing at that guy, thinking he's crazy. You see how this works? It empowers them. They're like, oh, our programming's working. We don't even have to worry. We don't even have to do anything because people believe us. So, crazy times, you guys. All right. Curiosity killed the cat. So, Casey, what's this cat thing about? Well, the cat, that's very deep. The cat matrix is deep. It kind of links into Melania, links into disease. I'm 100% convinced that whatever they launch upon us next, they will say, now I don't know if it will be the case, but they will say that it is some kind of disease from cats. This is what they're going to say. Again, I don't know if that will be true, but this is what they will say. Just the same way they said things about COVID, right? That might not necessarily be true, but they said them. So there's too much cat symbolism attached to zombie lore. We covered like 3 different zombie movies where a cat was involved. Remember? So, yes, everyone is hypnotized by the mind control machines. Also, people are under the spell of perceived relevance and perceived importance because the enemy has created a matrix where numbers matter. So, 500 of you are tuning in today. If there were 12,000 of you tuning in, which is probably more realistic to what this content is worth, people would believe more of what they're seeing and hearing. But the enemy controls all the numbers, so they throttle channels to only have a few hundred people watching, and then people can go, "Oh, that's not relevant. That's not true. It's not real. It can't be. There has to be a catch. I don't know what the catch is, but there has to be a catch." And so this is why truth never advances, because of the very prison matrix that the enemy has created to hide information. So we do the best we can here. We're not going to stop. The people that need to see it will see it. And that's pretty much what matters. So, all right. Dawn just got a girl kitten. Watch out for the duper delight smile that's everywhere, says Isaac. Most people just don't care. Well, we can't say that they don't care because they care enough to defend Trump, right? So they care about something. It's just they don't care about the truth because of the relevance matrix that social media has created. Social media has created a construct that, by definition, deceives people. It's convinced people that likes matter. It's convinced people that views, the number of views matter. And so people tune out when they think that something isn't popular or relevant. You could believe that they would care if a Joe Rogan was covering some of this stuff. It would be probably one of his top podcasts, wouldn't it? If Joe Rogan said, hey, we're going to do a video, or we're going to cover the electric state and how this cat was shot through the right ear, and then the flag of Iwo Jima matched the scene of Trump's assassination attempt, you can bet millions, maybe even billions of people would tune in for that. Probably be one of his most popular shows. So it's not that people don't care, it's the messenger. And this is the evil of social media, because social media are the Wizards of Oz. They toggle the messengers. And this is why relevance and reach is so important. It's not because I care about, not being as competitive. It's not about that, you guys. It's about, how do you reach people? Well, you reach people through relevance. So you can bet people would care if Joe Rogan was covering it. All right. What else is going on, you guys? Well, I'll probably see you guys tomorrow. I've got a squirrel over here eating my blackberries, so I'm gonna have to deal with this squirrel, shoo him off or whatever. But the blackberries are in full effect, so I'm excited about that. I'm gonna try to make some blackberry wine this year. I found a recipe. It's actually pretty simple. All you need is a 5-gallon bucket and some wine yeast, I guess. And the rest is just fermentation. So I might try that this year, depending on how many I get and how much of the wildlife steals steals the blackberries. uh, they beat Jesus with a cat, nine tails, 9 lives. All right, guys. Yeah, I'm gonna pop off here. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Much love.